Was the village idiot Donald Trump involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged drug trafficking and prostitution rings? Well, I think Oregon Senator Ron Wyden would like to know without saying it, and I would like to know with saying it. Senator Wyden recently sent a letter, this press release about it came out yesterday, to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. In the letter, Wyden was asking Blanche, why did you step in personally to block me from receiving a document, an unredacted document from the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, that detailed the history and maybe more of a 5-year investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, into alleged drug trafficking and prostitution? Why? Why'd you do that, Blanche? Wyden writes in his letter, "It has come to my attention that you are preventing the Drug Enforcement Administration from producing an unredacted copy of a report I requested regarding drug trafficking and money laundering by Jeffrey Epstein and several associates. Your alleged interference in this matter is highly disturbing, not just because it continues the DOJ's long-running obstruction of my investigation, but also because of your bizarrely favorable treatment of Ghislaine Maxwell, one of Epstein's closest criminal associates. I should not have to explain the significance of the fact that Epstein was a target of an OCDETF task force investigation. It suggests the government had ample evidence indicating he was engaged in large-scale drug trafficking and prostitution as part of a cross-border criminal conspiracy, and that Epstein was likely pumping his victims, including underage girls, with incapacitating drugs to facilitate abuse. I am at a loss to understand why you are blocking further investigation of this matter." Now, like I was, you're probably wondering what the I had to write it down on this Post-it because I couldn't remember all the letters. The OCDEFT is, or I should say was. I had to look it up. And fortunately, a quick Google search showed me what it was, but then Bloomberg News shared a little bit more with me about what this odd collection of acronyms is all about. The letters stood for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces, OCDETF. The Reganary Unit, which comprises hundreds of prosecutors and thousands of intelligence and law enforcement personnel from across the federal government, has long been responsible for dismantling major transnational organized crime networks, drug cartels, and human trafficking rings. The task forces played a role in the 2019 capture of Sinaloa cartel leader Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Now, the reporter in this particular article also tells us that earlier this year, she got a tip that the DOJ was shutting down the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces. Now, the reporter further informs us that the only way she was able to find out what was going on with this agency after she had heard rumors that it might be shut down, she wasn't getting any information, any responses from the federal government, from the Department of Justice. So she had to file Freedom of Information requests over and over and over again. And through that, and through eventually getting some of those requests, she was able to put the pieces together and determine that the government was quietly shutting down this agency. Now, interestingly, they didn't just shut the agency down. They sort of transferred the agency's responsibility over the Department of Homeland Security, and they sort of made an effort to sort of refocus this agency that was hyper-focused on taking down multinational drug cartels and such to immigration enforcement. The reporter, Jason Leopold, writes, and I apologize, Jason, I didn't look at your actual name until now doing this video, and I really don't want to go back and re-record everything I've already recorded to this point. I kept saying she. Jason appears to be a he, so my apologies to Jason for not adequately saying his name and talking about that he wrote this article. But irrespective, Jason writes, one practical implication of this transfer to the Homeland Security Task Forces is that the group's remit will be broadened beyond targeting drug cartels to also include immigration enforcement, my sources say. The personnel intend to use OCDETF's infrastructure and data and intelligence it collected to target undocumented immigrants, conduct worksite raids, and enforce customs laws. Now, what the hell that has to do with anything that this department previously did is beyond me, but I think that takes us back to Senator Ron Wyden's letter from yesterday. Senator Ron Wyden is trying to figure out why in the hell Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche interfered with his request for the unredacted version of a document that was created by that department that was ended by the Trump administration, moved over to Homeland Security, and to a certain extent refocused on immigration as opposed to, drugs and prostitution and things like that. Why on earth would Todd Blanche have not wanted that particular document from that particular agency to go to Senator Wyden? Senator Wyden talks in this article that he wrote, or in this press release, that the director of the DEA was going to give it to him. He was set to get it. But Todd Blanche intentionally interfered, came in and said no. He got wind of that document and said no. Don't give that to Wyden. Now, how does Wyden even know about that document? Well, that document, that fully redacted version of that document, was included in one of the dumps of the Epstein files that Department of Justice was forced to release because of the Epstein Transparency Act. So we don't know. I know this may be an unsatisfying video because you're not necessarily going to get a confirmed conclusion, at least not today. But I would keep an eye out on this because I'm just speculating and spitballing here. But what Wyden does know is that that document suggests, from what Wyden's been able to get from the redacted version, is that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were investigated for drug trafficking and prostitution. And there were also at least 12 other people who were investigated in that investigation for the same thing. And there were also, I think it was, fact check me on this if you choose to, because I may not have this number right, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 companies. So 12 people and probably 2 companies. Who were they? Were any of those 12 people the village idiot Donald Trump? Were any of those 2 companies the Trump administration? Were any of those 2 the Trump organization? Were any of those 2 companies any weird shell company that the village idiot Donald Trump owned, directly or indirectly? I don't know. We'll find out.